Hey everybody, it's Colin and Chris back for another Better Human, Better Gamer. I think I owe everyone an apology. Well, we didn't do a show last week.
Oh,
and
yeah.
what if they were so invested in our journey?
It's true
that we left like a pit. We left like a void in their happiness.
A void in the internet? That sounds dangerous.
Yep. That does sound dangerous. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope everybody out there is doing great. If you haven't listened to our show before, this show is a group of gamers that are on a journey to not only be more successful at the things that we care about, but also healthier and better people. And the idea there is by improving ourselves as people, we'll actually do better at games. And I know that sounds zany, but on the Best Infection podcast, which is on like episode 115 or something, we did a segment called Better Human, Better Gamer, and it was the most popular thing we'd ever done. So now there's a show. That's how we work. So before we dive in and go deep, as it were, I believe we need to remind them of something, Chris.
We more resemble clowns than doctors. I hope it'll become very, very clear pretty quickly. We're in no way qualified to give anyone advice,
right?
So really, this is a tool for reflection, personal reflection, and sharing, not advice. Mm-hmm. Don't do this. Don't do any of this. But
if you're taking your health advice from us, that's really bad.
That really says more about other people than us, probably.
Okay. I'm completely comfortable with that. I just, this is about our journeys, right? And our journeys are helpful to talk about and experience and share with people. And at the same time, we're not experts and we don't give medical advice, but the journey is really important. And today, the journey and the value in this show for Chris and I is going to be really, really clear. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about a value, like a big life value that Chris and I are getting out of doing this show. But before we do that, I wanted to touch back to previous episodes. Wait. So how is Chris doing at being a better Chris in the last few weeks?
Boy, Chris is being challenged in so many different arenas, but I'm doing great, I think. I can't, and this is not just giving myself grace. I mean, I think it's just, there's kind of a level of clarity that I haven't had sort of overall. Okay. And that's where I'm trying. That is where I want to live. That's where I want to be.
Clarity.
So, yeah. With the, clarity and logic and all that kind of stuff that's an entirely different episode, but yeah, that's going well. I had a little bit of
well, hold on, I want to ask something about that.
Yes,
do please. You know what caused the clarity? Because people might want to know that. It's different for everyone, but I'm curious if you know what happened for you.
Not everybody can do this. I had lots and lots of time off. It was an ironic effect of COVID and layoff and stuff. Fortunately, my wife is gainfully employed still, and I was able to sort of put stuff together. But having the time away from working, which is just not a practical strategy for 90% of people. I was able to, in that downturn and in a spot where I could be really, really down on myself and really down about the whole situation, chose not to be, sort of grasped onto teaching my daughter, doing the homeschooling thing, and that sort of rolled into other things. And now I feel like I'm building my life back piece by piece, doing tutoring and doing other work and sort of building back to a state that where I'm comfortable with myself, because the whole work-life balance, as it came to be known mid 2010s. That was difficult for me. So unfortunately, it was taking off a lot of time. But I think that if someone is self-reflective and can spend some time, because I get the impression that lots of people don't think this deeply about themselves, about how they want their lives to become. It does, once you get into a flow, and that can be good or bad, but not in a flow state, but once you get into sort of a routine, sometimes that goes places that you maybe don't like as much. You didn't really want that for yourself. So it's difficult, but it's really self-reflection, taking the time, and then sort of being true to that. And that's the really, really, really difficult part. The self-control and executive function are not my strong suits, but being even tempered and trying to be zen through the whole thing has really been that's how I've tried to handle it, and we'll see.
I think what's really interesting about that is that I've done a lot of work with international people. And one of the things that international people point out is that when you meet Americans and you ask them to talk about themselves, the first thing they say is their job. And by the way, the research also shows that that's a male trait much more than a female trait.
Interesting.
That if you ask men in America about themselves, they immediately talk about what they do. Women do not start with what they do. They start with other things and then work towards what they do. And it's a very different mindset that I think is because of the additional hundreds of years where men were the ones working, right? We've had we biologically, whatever you want to call it, environmentally, whatever, we've been trained over many, 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 many decades to be like, hey, this is the thing.
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning and this is the thing I go that makes everything go. And then I come home and I take care and I recover from the most important thing. And then I go back to the most important thing tomorrow. And then at some point you have kids or not, or some other meaningful thing in your life. Yeah. And for me, that meant coming home and being like, this is more important.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard because of the focus we all have on career, especially American men. I think it's really hard to take the step back that you're describing.
Yes.
Right?
Very.
Because it's such and school teaches us this too, right? It's a pattern to grind through life. This is what you do Monday through Friday. Then you take 2 days off. Sunday is football. Saturday is college football. Like everything is structured and systematic, and it can feel redundant.
Yeah.
I struggle with that a lot because I'm not a person who's particularly good at perspective. I tend to get lost either too high or too low and not where I actually need to be to see all of the elements and understand. Sometimes that's helpful because sometimes it means I'll see a problem differently than everyone else. But there's often situations where I need people to help me understand. And one of the things I'm dealing with right now is the company I work for has laid people off twice in the past few months. And it looks like they're going to do it again, maybe tomorrow. Yay. Do I know who's getting laid off? No. Do I know how they're deciding? No. Do I know when? No. I don't know anything because I am merely a cog in a giant organization.
Yep.
And one of the things I've been thinking a lot about the last few days is, do I like working where I am? Simple question.
Sure.
Do I like working here?
Deceptive.
Because I'm so used to making life fun no matter what I'm told to do.
Right.
I like the people I work with. I like the software that we sell, sort of. Now, I don't love it. And so it's like, is this what I want to be doing? And I have recruiters reaching out to me and I'm talking to them and I'm listening to what they do and thinking, do I want to do these things? And it's such a weird, for me, it's such a weird mindset to be in because I'm such a okay, now this is the thing I have to do to get back to the things I want to do.
Right.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Totally agree. It's the wrong priorities for a long time, and that's kind of that cycle I was talking about earlier. You get into that thing and it's safe and it feels great, and people like to feel safe and great. Nothing wrong with that, but questioning is really the thing, and taking that next step. really, really sticking with it, like, teaching kids anything, is being consistent, is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And
Well, and kids value structure, right?
so much.
Like it's really important when you're raising children that you give them structure. It's very hard for kids if you don't have it.
Mhm.
And so it's not even a little bit surprising that when we're grown-ups, we also want structure.
Yeah, go figure.
And the people that don't, the people that are, I'm going to live in a van and I'm going to drive around the country and I'm going to paint, but then I'm going to decide to open a hot dog shop. And then after I've done that for 3 months, now I'm going to go do this other thing. That person is just living their life, and they would get judged by most of our country, right?
Right.
And so that's the example, right? This kind of what's it called? Bohemian outlook is judged.
Well, there's I probably one of your favorite people as well, Will Wheaton. I follow him on Facebook. He had a really fantastic post. I just shared it today, about wasting time. People judging you for how you spend your time, and it sort of ties into that. It's something that I've heard my entire life. Why are you focusing on these silly things? This, these painting things, or this, or the model building, or whatever it was. And it's just this lack of understanding, and it's always kind of baffled me, because I'm a really open person. I'll tell you everything about my job. I'll tell you anything you want to know. And it seems like even with that, armed with that information, it doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, you do.
I know that we're not to our main topic yet, but this is so good.
No.
So we should keep talking for a few more minutes about this.
Please.
One of the things Stephanie and I had to overcome, that's my wife for the people that don't know me. One of the things my wife and I had to overcome is the way we spend time is really different. And she didn't understand why I play so many video games. And then when I started playing Warhammer, all I wanted to do is play Warhammer. And it's true that that's part of my hyperfixation. Like that's absolutely part of it. But it took years of me trying really hard to explain what's going on with me and why these things are important. And the conversation that finally did it was, my brain is bored, right? Like I'm not a person who can sit around. I'm not a person who can go to the beach and relax. I can do that, but it's not the same thing for me that it is for other people. I can't sit and watch TV. If it's not engaging, I need to be doing something else. Like I need that intellectual challenge that a video game or a tabletop game gives me. I find it calming. 40K in particular, I find focusing. Because normally I don't do anything, including work, for 3 hours straight without getting distracted 17 times. But when I go to play Warhammer with a friend, my brain knows what that means.
Yeah.
Right? And it clicks on, and it goes to a competitive gear where it's calling upon all of the information I've ever gathered playing this Warhammer game.
Yeah.
And it's doing the, it's doing the beautiful mind thing, or maybe the thing from the Queen's Gambit where she's playing chess on the ceiling, right? I'm trying to see all the angles, and I'm trying to anticipate. And all of that has made me a sharper, faster thinking person.
100%.
Video games have made me a faster, quicker thinking person. Yes. I'm not saying video games are all good. They've got their downsides as well. But like all of these hobbies that we're spending time doing, all of them are the makeup of who we are.
Yes. That's really interesting that, as going back to the early 80s, playing video games, Nintendo and Atari, all that stuff. Being in the Midwest, the buckle of the Bible Belt, if you will. My extended family was apparently talking to my mother saying, how can you let him play those horrible games? Those video games are going to rot his mind, and all the things you've ever heard. And thank goodness my mother was a reasonable, intelligent woman, and basically told them, I don't see a problem with it. It's problem solving, and it's a good way for him to spend his time. It's hand-eye coordination. I don't have a problem. And I really benefited from that, in all of my manual dexterity and doing things and building things, and that's translated into larger things I now see as an adult that I never would have imagined. just playing something as a kid was going to ever affect.
Right.
Well,
I had a thought the other day. There's not very many kids in the world that I don't think would benefit from playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely. Yeah, same thing.
There's this creativity that nerds have that normies don't tend to. That we'll talk about on another show, but it's totally a thing.
It's the other part of that to tie in is that the thing specifically I think about Dungeons and Dragons is that or any RPG is that it forces you outside of yourself. You now have to live as another person. You have to make decisions as another person. You have to take action as someone else.
Yep.
And that is a really great way to get folks to start thinking about themselves. That's a really good self-reflection tool, because you have a character who's not necessarily like you, behaves in a certain way, but you wouldn't do that. But how do you? And that's where the fun part is.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. So before we move into the actual topic, I want to do two things. I want to give an update on my goals. So I am not actively trying to lose weight. What I am actively doing is trying to eat like I'm not a moron. And maybe that moron word isn't fair. I purposely picked the word moron because it's not very, ignorant sounds worse and dumbass sounds worse. But I literally eat like I have no concept of what a human should be eating. Fair. I don't know anybody who is eating as trashy as me in my immediate friend group. So I've been trying to right the ship, and every other time I've done this in my life, I've tried to see how quickly I can lose weight, usually because I'm single, right? Let's be honest. But this time around, I feel very differently about it, and I haven't weighed myself. I didn't weigh myself at the start. I haven't weighed myself now. I'm not weighing myself. I will be really excited when what clothing fits changes, but until then, I'm not thinking about it. And the idea of that for me is I can't get hyperfixated on it. I can't let myself get pulled in, because if I do, I'll obsess over it at the expense of other things in my life, and it will go gangbusters for an amount of time, and then my brain will say, fuck this is hard, let's move on, and I'll be done. Right?
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to make sustainable patterns, and in the last 2 weeks, our friend Mike recommended these protein shakes by Orgain, Orgain, that Costco has them. They're like $1 a piece at Costco or something. Yep. They're 20 grams of protein. I think they're like 200 calories. And they're chocolate milk. They're not good chocolate milk.
Yeah.
But someone said it's like a Yoo-hoo. I don't think I've actually ever had a Yoo-hoo. So I don't know.
Don't bother.
What?
Don't bother.
Okay, well, maybe it is like a Yoo-hoo. Yeah, Yoo-hoo then. It is definitely a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10 for food.
Gotcha.
But then I'm not hungry. I don't have to make anything. I go to the fridge and I pick up the thing and I drink the thing and boom. So I'm having the same breakfast every morning, breakfast sandwich and banana. Then for lunch, I'm having shake. Then we don't eat dinner till late, so usually around 4 o'clock, shake. Then I eat dinner. Then sometime later in the evening, I have fruit or some sort of evening snack. Sometimes something sweet, but not normally.
Yeah.
And so I've mapped all this out. Okay. Yeah. And I need to eat less than 3,500 calories a day to lose weight. That's at a sedentary lifestyle because I'm not getting enough exercise, and I'm starting with food, and then we're adding exercise. But I'm starting with food. Luckily, I'm enormous. So 3,500 calories is a lot, and I feel like I can get under 3,000. So I figured out that my allowance allows me to spend 1,500 at dinner, and
gotcha.
I'm just going to try and see if that's what's happening. I don't want to log everything. I just want to have a general idea of what's going on. And my wife makes dinner for 5 people. Sometimes I made dinner last night all by myself.
Well, good
that
for you.
Doesn't happen very often.
Nice.
It was trash, but I did make it. So, so that's what I'm trying to do. And I feel really good about that. The snacking healthier and just eating less, and the knowing that dinner's fine. I can just eat dinner. I don't need to go overboard. I don't need to eat bread till I'm stuffed. I don't need to have a giant thing of ice cream afterwards. But I want to be able to just eat dinner out with my friends or at an event or with my family. That's important to me. But if I clean up the rest of my garbage, I think it'll pay dividends.
Yeah, I'm going kind of the opposite direction with you. I actually weighed myself for the first time today.
Okay.
In years, I had a checkup a month ago, and weight was maybe starting to creep, but just sort of about the same and not good enough for me. So right. I need to sort of plant a post and sort of track some changes. I know I'm we'll work on the physical stuff. I've been doing a little bit here and there, but yeah, I'm kind of going the opposite. I need that motivation. I need that as kind of a kick to do something to remind me to keep track of it and all that. But yeah, mine is again, the late nights gotta start backing that bedtime up.
Yeah, for sure. I think that I'd be interested to hear from our audience on this.
Yep.
I'd be interested to hear what has worked for you. Not short-term dieting, long-term health fixing. I don't know that my plan is going to work, if I'm being honest. But I do know that to get really rolling on weight loss, it takes a lot change over a long time.
Yeah. For anything sustainable has got to be, I got to be a regular change, and again, consistency. Go figure.
We've got a friend here who's saying, I'm older than most players and have been through a lot here. I'm older than most players and I've been through a ton of different things over the years. As the majority of people, I'm not special. You are special, but maybe not in this particular way. I bet there's a way that you're special. Anyways, and trying to figure out how to deal with these things is never easy. He's right. And then he also says that he's gained a lot of weight over COVID and switched to small plates and he's losing weight now. Yeah, I've heard that.
Idea.
Yeah, I've heard that. Just grab a smaller plate for dinner. You can't put as much food on it.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I did want to share one thing before we continue into the main topic.
Sorry.
And that's that the other day I had a really emotional day that was very hard. And I ate like a man on his last day. I just ate like crazy. I had a giant blizzard at night, ice cream and candy for those that don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I just went crazy because I was just so frustrated that that's just what I wanted to do. And much like when we talked about learning to meditate, the next day I just said to myself, okay, back at it.
Right.
I didn't even talk about it. I didn't spend time thinking about it. I just went back to my good habits the next day.
Yes.
And that is what's needed.
That's exactly.
I didn't beat myself up. I'm not mad at myself about it. I had a really good time eating all the trash I could find. Like, it was great. It made me feel better. I'm sorry. Emotion and food are connected like this. Okay.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
I very same, very, very similar, very stressed, very much stress eating for a couple of days. And it was again, one of those moments of, am I going to do this again? And the next day getting up and saying, no, I'm not. I am having a reasonable day of eating and not snacking and doing all the things I want to do. So we'll do it. We'll get there one way or the other.
Yeah, right. So, guys, let us know what works for you. We want to hear from you. Put the comments in our YouTube. It's probably the easiest thing to do. Or share with us in the Discord if that's what you're up to. So that's our intro, talking about what's going on with us, making sure you guys are not taking health advice from us. Now, today's episode is called Winning More Games Thanks to Self-Awareness. And we're going to do this in two parts. We're going to start off by talking about self-awareness, and then we're going to talk about vulnerability, which is kind of the key brother, the cousin, if you will, of really the brother of self-awareness. Ungendered sibling, I think is a better term.
There you go.
So, excuse me. I'll be right back.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully Colin will come back without any issue.
You were supposed to riff there, Chris.
I'm sorry, I have no riff.
Okay. Okay. How does self-awareness help you win? So here's the theorem that we're operating under. If you understand what you're good at and what you're not good at, and you know how to ask for help, and you know how to identify when you are the problem or something else is the problem, those are skills that the top players in 40K and other competitive games are wonderful at. You simply will be capped at how good you can be if you are not able to see yourself, to understand yourself, to get it, right? We talked about blaming dice, and we'll talk about blaming dice again. But blaming dice is a great example, right? Blaming dice is saying to yourself, this isn't me. This wasn't my fault. That's not self-awareness. That's not what that is. That's not getting better. That's not learning from the situation. So before we jump into self-awareness and vulnerability and how this all connects together, I want to talk about self-awareness specifically from why it matters. I went to I was part of a young executive summit, annual summit. I was part of an executive group that met with each other every week once a month for years. And one of the things we talked a lot about is happiness, the meaning of life, if you will. Like how does happiness happen? And there's a lot of ways of looking at this, and there's a lot of books, and there's all types of religions and all of that. But the one that worked for me, this isn't what may work for everybody else, but the one that worked for me is that the more aware you are, the happier you will be. Straightforward. It's just the more that you know of yourself and that others know of you, the more at ease and happier you'll be in your life. So I have brought something to explain to y'all that I think is neat. I hope everyone else will think it's neat. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can type Johari window into Google, Johari, and you'll see this diagram in a million different ways on Google. For those that are with us live, here's what it looks like. So it's 4 boxes, and on the left, the top says known to others, and the bottom says not known to others. The top left says known to self. The top right says not known to self. So the way that you read this is items in the upper left-hand box are things that you know about yourself and that others know about you as well. Okay? Chris is a gamer. There you go. That's a thing that I know, that everybody knows about Chris. Chris has a daughter. That's something everybody knows about Chris. Maybe there's stuff that Chris knows about himself that nobody else does, right? That's the hidden area at the bottom left. Those are the things that are not known to others. The upper right is the stuff that other people know about you that you don't know. And that's a really hard topic that I try really hard to help people with. If I identify something about you, especially if it's a good thing, I will tell you. I have seen this thing in you, and I think it's neat. Because it's very hard to know what other people see in you that you don't see. And by the way, it could be really blatant, right? The joke I like to make is if everybody at work thinks you're a jerk, it's not them. If everybody thinks you're hard to work with, it's not all of them, right? So, and then the bottom right-hand corner is things that you don't know about yourself and other people don't know about you. Those are the really secretive ones. So the idea of this Johari window is that these 2 lines need to move to the right and down, increasing the open area where things that are known to yourself and known to others, and also changing the shape of the things that you know about yourself that other people don't know and vice versa, making those areas smaller. And as people know you, and this sounds so... I'm just imagining a whole bunch of gamer nerds that are used to me telling them how to win at 40K that are listening to this thinking, what the hell is Colin talking about?
Hold on, let me get the incense.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I've got crystals here on the desk here. I promise you guys, okay? I promise you, if you'll think about this, it will help. I promise. I promise that I'm not a health expert, but if you think about this, if you talk to your friends about this, you will learn things about yourself you don't know, and they will learn things about you that they didn't know. Okay? So that's self-awareness, right? Self-awareness is knowing who you are and other people knowing who you are, right? It's not just, I mean, awareness, I guess, is other people knowing who you are. So how does that resonate with you, Chris? I did not show this to Chris ahead of time.
No, it's great. It's fun. It's fun for me to think about the lower right corner, the things I don't know about me and nobody knows about me.
Uh-huh.
That's neat. But I've always been weird and seeking out the stuff that other people don't. It's like that's sort of been a little bit of a superpower. I mean, in terms of like looking at things differently than other people, maybe.
Yeah.
I like that, but yeah, the blind spot stuff is that's really interesting that you sort of pick that and point that out to people. The way that sort of hit me was, trying to grow myself, I've realized that part of people's misconception, or my perceived, get this one, my perceived misconception of the way other people see me is because I'm not showing enough gratitude. I'm not doing these little things that gratitude kind of is a little blurry, but in this case, like telling people good things about them, noticing things about situations that I hadn't done before. That's really been because of the work I've been doing on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, that's kind of where what kind of resonated with me immediately.
Yeah, I think so. Let me share. I know that this is a big topic, but let me share some examples of how making the box bigger can make you happier. Okay. So things that are not known to yourself. If there's a mannerism you do that everyone is irritated by, and you could teach yourself to not do it, would you? I would think most people would say yes.
Yeah.
Not everyone. Some people's individualism is their most important trait. That's fine.
Yep.
But me, yes. My wife didn't like a phrase I use that my friend uses a lot. That's hot. And so I try really hard not to tell her that things are hot. I try really hard, and I don't always succeed.
Sure.
But if it annoys her, fine, right?
Yes.
So when you think about, this is a very tame example, but if you think about things that are not known to yourself, that if you knew would make you happier, imagine that a simple change would make everyone like you better. It's mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
We've had people, actually, I had this happen. I was a bad competitor at Warhammer. I was not fun to play against. And I had no idea. And it took me many people trying to talk to me before my brain went, what? Right? Because it didn't meet with my worldview.
Sure.
Right? I thought that the upper left-hand corner of my Jahari window was Colin's very likable and everyone likes playing games with him.
Mm-hmm.
No. There was upper right, which is Colin wants to win and is really cranky and difficult at the table, especially if he's not winning.
Yeah.
And I don't think I have that problem anymore. Maybe I do. If you've played me recently and you're upset about me talking about this, please tell me. But I put a lot of effort into that. And the end result is I don't hear that at all anymore. People like playing me. People look forward to playing me. People tell me I'm so excited to play you. It's completely different. And the vibe and the energy at the table is better. People are more agreeable. They're easier to interact with. The games go more fluidly. They're less stressful. All just because I realized what was going on, which was I was being an anxious mess. That's what was going on. And that once I figured out how to manage that, things got a lot easier. So there's an upper right-hand corner example. Here's my bottom left-hand corner example. I've been anxious my entire life, and I talked to 0 people about it. I didn't talk to my parents. I didn't talk to my friends. I didn't talk to my doctor. I just was anxious. And that made me annoying to people at times. And it made me worry at times. And it made me sick a lot to my stomach from worry. Mm-hmm. And I went on a podcast on Best in Faction. And I said, the reason I'm having a hard time at the table is that I am an anxious person and I am worried about the experience. And my co-hosts jumped on that and made me feel appreciated and loved and cared for. Adam Abramowitz, which some of you know as the host of The Best General, was on. Mm-hmm. And Adam started interviewing me. He was the guest. He started interviewing me about my table anxiety. And the next thing that happened was LVO. And people came up to me at LVO and were moved emotionally by me sharing that anxiety story. Okay. This is a thing that I've known about for a really long time, folks. Mm-hmm. I just didn't tell you about it. And the way I function, and Chris knows this all too well about me, I can give you no indication that I'm not comfortable if I don't want to. I can just, what do you need me to do? Okay, I'll just go do that. I won't share anything about myself. I might feel terrible underneath. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to do the thing.
The rest those of us who use the same strategy do recognize it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we end up with this. Yeah, that's very true. How true that is hitting me very hard. Once I started sharing more about myself and being more open, my friendships got better. I got better at the table. I got better at Warhammer. I got less trash talked in the community of Warhammer. I found myself that I stopped bad mouthing people so much. Like I would make gossipy, snarky comments about other Warhammer players, and I still do that some because it's a really hard habit to get away from. It's very fun, but I'm trying to be so much better about that, because who I am as a person that I want other people to see is not that, right? Not in my perception. Yep. To them, that's who I am, but that's not who I am to be. So this is kind of what this activity is. It's trying to understand who you are and make sure other people understand you. So that's the general idea of awareness. And the main way you're going to do this is vulnerability. So I'm going to take this away, bring Chris and I back up. I believe that vulnerability is the following things. And I want, Chris, you disagree with me if you want, okay? This is just me. I didn't read this online. This is just me spending 100 times more than is reasonable thinking about this. Yeah. Okay? This is what vulnerability is. This is what vulnerability has done for my life. It fixed my parenting issues. I am not effing with you guys right now. It fixed my parenting issues. It gave me deeper and more meaningful friendships than I had ever had. It helped me get past real garbage with my wife. And it made me significantly better at Warhammer. It did all of those things. And that's why it matters to me before we dive into it. Did those things resonate with you, Chris?
100%. Because that is, we were talking earlier about how, we've both had kind of a crap week. And you asked me at the beginning of the show, how are you doing? And I said, great. Well, that's why. I just am in. I am. I'm David Glover, standing with the pizza box in the burning building. That's me. But I'm okay with it because I'm in this place where, thanks to therapy again, I'm starting to realize that through my life, I've really sort of tamped down who I was and not been genuine with people. I was brought up in a way that sort of encouraged that you stay closed off, you stay quiet, you don't, being a man is this, and this. No. And finally starting to realize that now. And it's, late, whatever. It is what it is. But realizing that, and realizing that the strongest friendships that I have in my life, the people that I can rely on the most, are the ones who I'm most open with. They are to a person. Um, so that really speaks to, the folks that hang around and the folks that don't. And it speaks to that whole philosophy of, be yourself and your tribe will just sort of find you. That for me, that was kind of a realization over the past week or so. That's really really been hitting me even more hard with that realization. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so I want to share the core reason, what's the right word? I want to share the overall saying, the overall statement about vulnerability that is how I think of it.
Hmm.
And then Chris has got some thoughts he's going to take us through. And I'm going to try to riff with Chris. He's prepared this. So here's the thing. I had a therapist tell me this, and then I had a work mentor tell me this, like 2 months apart from each other. Neither prompted. Vulnerability is how human beings build relationships. If you act like you are perfect and there's nothing wrong with you ever, you're the greatest at Warhammer, you're the greatest at work, you're the greatest at movies, you know the most, you can dunk, all the things. Mm-hmm. By the way, Chris, if you can dunk, we need to know about that right away.
That's a negative.
Okay. So, if you are like that, and by the way, that's who I was in my 20s, is that level of arrogance, like just closed off,
okay,
no self-awareness arrogance. If that's who you are, people do not want to be in your life. They don't want to be your friend. They don't want to marry you. They don't want to date you, because there's nothing to relate to, right? Human beings are broken. Like all of us, like you don't get out of childhood unscarred, right?
Yep.
We all have baggage. We all have bad things that have happened to us. Like the guy said earlier, we've all had garbage throughout our lives. And to act like none of that affected you doesn't make you relatable, doesn't make you likable. Yep. So being vulnerable has made this network. The whole shift in Best in Faction was when we started talking openly about our feelings. And I know that's bizarre for a bunch of dudes, but that's the way it is. By the way, anyone can dunk if you change the height of the hoop or the ground.
Like it.
That is a great worldview. Okay.
I've got a chance.
Let's talk. We have a really good question from our audience, and I want to answer it. I want to talk about it, and then we're going to go through Chris's vulnerability homework.
Sure.
Okay, so our friend here says, okay, I've been fighting a type of lymphoma. Wow, I didn't know that word was going to be hard to say. I've been fighting a type of lymphoma for over 7 years. Love playing, but I need to sit down during games, plus I get tired. Hate telling because I don't want pity, but sometimes I tell.
Yeah.
I have a strong opinion about this that's very Colin, so I think you should go first, Chris.
I probably have an equally strong opinion for different reasons. Being the father of a daughter with a disability, so first of all, I completely understand not wanting to tell, not wanting to share. That's sensitive medical information. It's personal. It gets into a lot of stuff you may not be ready to get into. Totally acceptable. But in general, Americans, I'm wagging my finger at all of us, are just not accepting of folks who are different, who have no choice in the matter. They didn't do anything wrong to become sick, to have an illness, to have a debilitating disease, to have any level of any medical issue at all. And it's tough. I don't know where it comes from. It was in me 20 some years ago. That has rapidly changed. And I really, frankly, my personal experience has been, I don't care. I just don't care. You can look, you can stare, you can ask questions. If you're going to be rude, then that's a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I'm here to do my grocery shopping. My daughter's here with me, and I'm pushing her in a wheelchair. If you'd like to smile and let us pass, that's fantastic. If you want to make snarky comments, do it out of earshot, because yeah, we're not going to go there. So I would say that I don't think that you're going to run into situations where people are going to be openly mocking. I think for the most part, the few people that I've met at the one convention I went to, I think they were polite to a fault. To a person, I didn't meet a person that was that rude. But I'm not a player. You have a different perspective, Colin. So why don't you?
I have a similar perspective from a completely different angle, which
Excellent.
is great. We get to the same place in the end, I think.
Yeah.
I have had the completely different experience of Chris. And the problem with that is that Chris literally has a daughter that makes him literally an expert in this. But what the experience that I've had is that if you're open with people that you're having a struggle for whatever reason, that people tend to be understanding, or at least pretend to be understanding, which is all I'm looking for.
Yes.
So here's what I would do, friend in the audience. I would say this at the start of the game. Hey, I'm Colin. It's really great to meet you. I'm excited to play our game. I wanted to let you know something. I have some health stuff. It makes it very hard for me to stand through the game, so I'm going to sit down as much as I can. And I might get a little fatigued, and if I do, I'll just let you know. But we'll probably be fine, and I really like playing this, and I'm excited.
Yeah. And
no health details. Mm-hmm. Nothing that might make them uncomfortable, because Americans are wacky. Like nothing, like you're not going to tell them you have lymphoma and someone's going to be like, can I get it from your dice? Like that's not going to happen. So,
at least not in Vegas.
Yeah, but I think you can literally just say, I have health stuff going on. It doesn't even say I'm got health stuff forever.
Well,
I've got health stuff going on right now.
I can see how that could be misconstrued. You know, we are living in the age of COVID, despite what some people want to think. And, you know, just saying general health problems might even be a weirder situation. But Kara Quinn, you don't need to get over it. It is other people's issue. But if it's affecting you, you need to treat it
with kindness.
the way you feel best, and be kind to other people. Being kind to other people has always paid off for me, and I think that people are a lot more accepting, even if it does lead to some questions.
There's some comments now about mental health and how the military handles it, and we have people that can come on and talk about that. It's not Chris and I, so I'm just going to let that topic fly by, but I want to acknowledge that that's a very serious topic that I do care about a great deal, but I'm just I'm not comfortable that I have anything of any value to say on that topic. So, I think saying that you need to get over it is fine as a mantra. I need to get over this. I need to get over this. But if it's, I need to get over it, like if it's frustration and anger with yourself, I don't think that is going to help you. Unfortunately, stuff like this, and I can't, obviously I'm not shy. So it's easier for me in these situations than it is other people.
Yep.
And I don't mean that you're shy. I'm just not someone who has boundaries about what it's okay to talk about. So I wouldn't have any problem with this. But that being said, there's lots of other things I've had problems with in my life. And I found that I just have to bite the bullet and say the thing and see what happens. And sometimes you have to say the thing and see what happens. And then you have to adjust the thing that you did for next time.
Yep.
So sometimes that's the thing.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Where do we start on our vulnerability journey, Chris?
First, what he's saying about the military, 100% true. I play a fellow who's a vet, and there are stories. I think starting, how do you define it? What is vulnerability? What is it really?
Okay. What do you got?
I mean, I think so. There are lots of definitions. Look in preparation. There's lots of them, but the best one, the one's most applicable here, is willingness to show emotion or to allow one's weaknesses to be seen or known.
Ooh, that sounds terrifying.
And right, a willingness. Well, then pull up your panties, because the next part is willingness to risk being emotionally hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the cause and effect right there.
Yep.
Allow them to be seen, and then roll the dice and see if you get hurt.
Well, that's interesting. I haven't thought about that before, but I am someone who goes all in relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, whatever. I go all in, as you've seen, Chris. Like, I'm like, oh, you're in my life now? Here's everything I'm inviting you to. But that's how I am. And to me, the joy and positive emotion of having that person in my life is worth any damage when they leave, especially dating. Like, I've dated some toxic women, and when they leave, they're very hurtful. They say mean things. They use information that I was vulnerable about against me. Doesn't matter. We had several blah, 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 days, months, whatever. and that's fine, right? That's just part of the journey. So I think that's something that I've been pretty comfortable with, but I've never thought about it before. So that's interesting.
It's even more interesting to me that you've never thought about it before, because that was simultaneously probably one of the most shocking things to learn about you. Like, oh, we're playing World of Warcraft. Here, come stay at my house for 3 days, and we're going to do nothing but play video games. Oh, and by the way, there's going to be like 10 other people here. And, it was terrifying at the beginning. And now it's one of my very favorite things about you, that you have no fear with those things, where I am so the opposite. and it's helped me. I mean, to be honest, it's actually helped me in my life to not give a shit quite so much. It's okay, I always said that a lot.
Everybody looks stupid on the regular.
Oh no.
Everybody. My favorite thing in sales is just to berate myself when I do something stupid, because everybody loves it. Like, and I'm not like,
it's a terrible habit.
But it's not if you're just being playful, and you're not being mean to yourself. Right.
Yeah.
Like I'll mess up a word, and then I'll say, man, good thing I don't speak for a living. Or I'll say something, and the tech guy will be like, actually, Colin, that's not right. And I'll say, look, I'm just here to be charming. I've got no other value I'm bringing to the equation. Like, you could take a mistake and you can make it fun.
Right.
But yes, but that's not true vulnerability. True vulnerability is making a mistake and being like, oh, I made a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that whole feeling, that whole willingness to be emotionally hurt thing. It's like that's a feeling that those of us with anxiety, or a lack of boundaries, we know all about that. That is, the prime directive. No more hurting. No. We want to feel nice. This is not great.
And I'm not unafraid of that. Like, I think people's perception of me, especially the people that just know me from Best in Tabletop, is this kind of outgoing, fearless personality. Like, Chris, you get what I mean? Like, the persona that Colin puts out,
sure,
is a particular persona. And who I actually am is much more worried about upsetting people. Much more worried about making people uncomfortable, much more like, that's all stuff I have anxiety about. And I certainly don't want to get hurt. I'm not interested in being hurt at all.
Yeah.
But when you look back at your upbringing and you think about where you came from, for me, one of the things I've realized is, I was dating this girl. I had a tendency before I met Stephanie to date these girls that were wildly broken and desperately needed me to take care of them. and my aunt described it as, this girl I was dating, she said she has a glass of water. And that's how much love she has inside of her. and you're pouring water into the glass and giving more love to her. Right? Great.
Yep.
The problem is she has a hole in the bottom of her glass. And no amount of love you ever pour in is going to be enough until she fixes that hole.
Yep.
Oh, old people. So
Right.
smart.
Right?
So smart.
Mhm.
And you know what I realized?
Mhm.
That was my glass. I was the glass with the hole in it, not the girl I was dating at all. It was my flipping glass. And so as I look back at the decisions I've made, I've let people in quickly because I'm lonely and I'm sad. And having those people around fixes that. I don't have to think about things. I don't have to be lost in Colin thought then. I can just focus on all these wonderful people around me that are doing fun things.
Yes.
So it's important to understand. I guess I'm tangenting. We'll get back
No,
to
no,
vulnerability. No, I am. This is very clearly a tangent. I'm trying to relate to everybody that everybody is different. And when you think about the thing you're putting out, emotion, something you're bad at, all of that's for different reasons, right? And it's about understanding the reason, but then sharing it. I just shared with all of you. I feel great. It felt really good to share that. I had never shared that publicly before. I'd never talked about that before. I don't think I had talked about the glass thing with anyone ever. I just talked about it for the first time.
Neat.
And it feels great. I'm going to text my aunt and tell her how much that meant to me.
Even
you know why? Because that's going to make her flip a night, and it costs me nothing.
Exactly.
That's why.
I love that. Those are the best.
It costs me nothing. Okay. So I think we've defined it. Our definition is terrifying, but we have defined it.
It's true. It's true. So again, in preparation, so I watched the name Brene Brown kept coming up. So I actually watched this 20-minute TED Talk, and I really encourage everybody go and watch it on your own time. Power of Vulnerability. And she gets sort of tied up in, it's a really interesting story, but talking about how there's shame. Shame is a fear. It's a fear of disconnection. And there's that if somebody knows something about me, that I won't be worthy of a connection with them. They're not going to like me. If they know this about me, I can't tell anybody that, whatever. So the good thing is, if you're at all concerned about it, it's universal. We all have it, unless you're like a psychopath. People who don't have experienced shame don't have capacity for empathy. So if you're having feelings, then it's all good. I learned that about narcissism. Talking about it, it's like, oh wait, honey, if you're talking about it and worried about being a narcissist, you're not. So yeah, nobody wants to talk about it, and the more you don't talk about it, the more you end up having shame around it, and that ends up just putting up a wall, and does not allow you to be vulnerable at all. Do
you remember the first time you cried in public or in front of friends as a grown-up? Because I do.
I don't. No, I don't.
Actually. I think the fact that I do remember that says a lot about us as a society. I was watching The Green Mile with friends in a movie theater.
Oh, yeah, that would do it.
And two of us were crying and one was not, and I was wildly uncomfortable. Hugely, wildly uncomfortable. I'm going to find out how old I was when this happened. Because I don't know.
Yeah,
but if I look up when The Green Mile came out.
The first. Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's like emotional things.
I was 19 years old. Almost 20. I was about to turn 20 years old.
Yeah, that would be that is a strange development time in not wanting people to see who you really are. That's a really, really strange, masky time. At least it was for me.
Yeah.
Dang.
Okay. Moving on.
So I mean, really, what ends up happening is, it's vulnerability are like the oxygen masks in airplanes. You got to love yourself first, and then show other people love, regardless of how that might turn out. If it's good, bad, indifferent, it can't end up mattering to you. So it's like it's like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So does Indy want to go into the booby trap lair and get the Grail? No, he doesn't. So the penitent man is humble before God, but he doesn't just kneel and do the one thing, or he gets his head chopped off by the other blade coming through the floor. So he thinks in the moment. It's not like you're on rails. You can still make decisions in the moment. So do no harm, take no shit, and pay attention. That's really what it boils down to. And if you can be that fearless, it will end up paying off for you.
Well put.
Yeah, but so it really just, we talked about this before about being genuine with people, and how really the only way you're going to get those people in your life that are not only good to you but good for you is by being your true self. So going back in my history, not necessarily related to games, but just to life. Everybody's got parental crap. Everybody's got stuff that you learned growing up that you wish you hadn't, just because it was the way things were done.
Right.
Part of that for me is that macho men do this, women do that, all of that, which I ended up unlearning, thankfully, because it just doesn't. That's great in the 1950s, but it doesn't work now. It just doesn't. That and just really learning a way to live that was really sort of closed off and dishonest. I did not realize it at the time, but being raised by a narcissist who knows the only thing they know is putting on masks and playing different roles and putting on a different persona. That's all they know. And I learned that behavior, but that wasn't me. I'm the bleeding heart liberal. I'm my mother. I am, I care about everybody too much to my own detriment sometimes. But it's really interesting. I didn't realize this until fairly recently that, that was a learned behavior. And the reason that a lot of people did not connect with me was because of that, because they could tell something was up. And it's like, I didn't realize myself that I was doing anything to be off-putting until I got enough perspective, enough distance from it, I guess. So again, being yourself.
Right.
and now it's a lot easier for me. And if nothing else, the much lower level of stress for me in social situations has made all the difference. That's worth it for me, because that's kind of a big deal.
A friend was telling me about their kid playing football and that they were really worried about getting hit. They were nervous about it. They were anxious about it. It was their first year playing football. And then they got hit and they came home and said, you know what? It wasn't so bad. In fact, hitting the ground was kind of fun. Right? And I think, unfortunately, that's our advice. Go get hit. Right? Go open yourself up until someone hurts you, and then realize that that's okay and move on.
So I realize the toxic subtext and the interpretations that everybody has. However, I love Fight Club. And that's kind of part of it. Go out and get into a fight and lose. Life is going to fight you no matter what. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have to do all of these things. And do you want to maintain a spreadsheet of all the lies that you've told and all the untruths and all the little things that you have to keep track of with everyone? Or do you just want to live a nice, honest, simple life, be yourself, and attract the people who are going to be attracted to you? I like that better.
Yeah.
Much, much better.
That's one of the problems, is that if you're not open about who you are, you'll end up with people that aren't who you want to be around.
Ooh, so true.
Yeah.
So true.
So, Chris, we have about another 25 minutes. Does it make more sense to go through your notes, or does it make more sense to talk about the categories I did earlier? Because I talked about parenting and friendship and game playing and all that stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's talk about. Is there anything you want to talk about from your list before we talk about parenting?
No. Let's talk. Let's do that.
I think parenting is a really great one, because a lot of 40K gamers are having kids for the first time. Like, there's a bunch of us with old kids, fine.
Gotcha.
But I would say that there's a large demographic of young children dads in 40K. And when I say young children, I mean like under 10. So I had a very difficult time. So when I first met my kids, they were 9, 8, and 5. And when I first met them, they listened to me and did everything I said because I was new. And I was exciting, and I played with them, and I knew about Pokemon, and like I knew what to say to 3 young boys because I was a young boy. And then we all moved in together, and suddenly I had no ability to control anyone. I was not listened to. It was really bad, and so I started yelling, and I started getting frustrated, and I let my anger take over. And some people were like, "You're really angry." No. Just trying to be heard by the children. So, and I get loud, and I grew up in a house where people yelled at each other, so I started yelling. And when I learned about vulnerability, I stopped yelling. And I had a kid who was struggling with a problem. And I went to the kid, and I said, they had a problem with bullying. And I said, this is what you're doing. And here's why I'm worried about it. I'm worried that you're not going to make good friends. And the friends that you do make aren't going to want to be around you with this behavior. And I know that firsthand because I've struggled with this before. Here's when it happened in my life and when I looked like a fool and it hurt my ability to have friends. And the kid's eyes, I'll remember it forever. Head exploded. Colin's not perfect?
What? You're a grown-up.
Right. And you know what else? Talking about how miserable it is to be fat has reached at least one child who is now trying to eat healthy and exercise.
Great.
Right? Like when I said that people connect with each other through vulnerability, it matters a lot with children because children need to understand that you're a human being as well so that their expectations are appropriate. Right? Like, I'm struggling with memory really bad right now, and I keep forgetting to do things the kids need me to do. It takes a long time to call and make a dentist appointment. One of the kids needs a haircut. That stuff's falling on me because my wife's super busy. She used to take care of that stuff. I can do all of that. But even moving the laundry over is hard for me right now because of what my brain's been doing. Yep. And so I told the kids, guys, I'm having a very difficult time remembering to do things. It is fine to nag me. And the end result of that is I'm getting nagged and it's obnoxious. But am I being a better father because of the nagging? Yes. Right?
Yeah.
And they're understanding. If they come home and they say, did you call the dentist today? And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't. I'll do it tomorrow. They go, okay. Right? Man. Because I set that expectation that was how we were going to interact with each other.
That's great.
Now, the other way around, they can't just forget to do the things I need them to do. So it's not completely fair.
Well,
but they're also young and have good memories.
Fair is relative. Life ain't fair. And you are being that's the thing that I try to impress upon my daughter is that not to be scary about it, but to just say, look, it's a big bad world out there and ain't nobody out there that cares for you as much as I do. Mm-hmm. And not in a controlling way, not shaking my finger, just that, look, I'm here to help you. I am not here to boss you around. When I'm telling you to do things, it's to help you. And we'll work on it together. If you need help, you tell me. But again, that's, yes, I completely agree.
The narrative I've done with the kids all throughout their lives sounds like this. And I've done it a lot, so I know exactly what it sounds like. We're on a team. This family is a team together. We all succeed together. Everybody who succeeds here is succeeding because we all love each other and we all support each other. My goal in life as their stepfather is to make sure that each one of them is a successful, happy member of society. Period.
Done.
That's it. That's it. I don't care if they're good at video games. I don't care if they're good at football. I don't care if they want to be with a man or a woman or they want to have 13 dogs. I don't care if they want to be a plumber or a truck driver or a hot doctor or a politician. Maybe not a politician. But I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
I want them to do whatever they want to do to build the life for themselves where they're going to be happy. And in order to do that, there's certain skills they need to learn. And I know what those skills are. And so I tell them regularly, please remember that I'm just trying to help you be successful. That is my goal here. I do not want you to learn habits that will make you obnoxious to other human beings when you are older. It is much easier to learn that now than it is to learn it at 26 like I did.
Yes. Or later.
So Sam wants to know, Sam from 40K Frontiers, by the way, one of the most fantastic shows on the network. All of our shows are fantastic. He says, by yourselves being vulnerable, have you seen your kids also become more vulnerable? You go first, Chris.
Yeah. Yes. The short answer is yes. Keeping in mind, so my daughter just turned 23. Holy crap, 2 days ago.
That's pretend numbers.
Yes, I know. But keeping in mind, we're on a different timeline. The development stuff is a little bit different, but yes,
people may not be maybe listening to this for the first time. You should tell them what that
means. So my daughter has a couple disabilities. Main one is cerebral palsy. She's deaf in one ear, and she's got lots of motor control issues and some cognitive problems. So that's been a challenge her entire life. We have like Colin just said, my goal is to raise a happy, healthy human being. Is she successful is she going to be an orthopedic surgeon? No. Do I care? No. Not
well, she'd be really bad at that.
Yes, precisely.
People
just
would
like
die.
I would be. I couldn't be one of those electricians that swings from electrical lines 200 feet in the air either. So I get it. But it's yes, I have seen more vulnerability, and where that really plays out and matters is in the honesty department. That's really going to pay dividends in understanding your kid, understanding that, look, there's not shame attached with mistakes. Mistakes are mistakes. There are consequences. Depending on how bad you screw up, there may be big consequences
for us as well, for grown-ups as well.
100%, everybody. But showing them that you make mistakes, and look, did anything really bad happen? No, you don't have to be that concerned about it. Try to do good. Try not to make mistakes and all that kind of thing. But yes, short answer is it does.
Yeah, it's harder in my situation because my kids are mostly teenagers and they're boys. So
it's a tough time.
First of all, they're immortal.
Yes.
Second of all, at least one of them is smarter than I am, evidently.
Always.
Or at least knows more than I do. So it's hard, but I would say in general, yes. And I think that when the kids were really young and Stephanie and I didn't really know about our mental health stuff, I think we punished too harshly for mistakes. And so I think we've built a house that thinks mistakes are weakness and it doesn't want to admit them. And so we're trying to overcome that. Hey, new parents, you're going to mess things up. And later you're going to have to fix it. And that's okay. This is a thing we screwed up. We should have done better at this. There was no need to be as mean, frankly, and yell as much as we did. We didn't know what we were doing, and it was wrong. And we don't do it anymore. We don't. I'm a loud person in general, so sometimes I sound angry when I'm not. But the kids now know how to tell me that. Right?
That's great. That's good that they can talk to you without talking back to you. That they can communicate that.
Sometimes I'm just a hothead.
Yeah, well, we all get there.
Yeah, so the parenting thing is just being relatable. Our friend Mike, who's one of our closest friends, he, with his daughter, and also Chuck with his son, both of them have said the following to me in their own way. My kid doesn't need a parent, they need a life coach. Your kids are going to get to a point where they need legitimate, grown-up, this is how you live advice. This is how you handle your relationship. This is how you do well at college. This is how you interview. This is how you tie a tie. Like actual things that grown-ups need to know.
Yes.
And I think, I don't have kids that age, but I think the goal is for the kids to come to you as an ally, as a teammate, to help them with those things rather than the disciplinarian that they're afraid to come home to.
As a parent, that is my one goal. I do not want to end up with the same sort of parental relationship I had with my father. I've done, there's a funny meme / poster, a motivational poster. Sometimes your life is only meant to be an example to others, a bad example. I've sort of lived that in trying not to repeat mistakes that I've seen made, or mistakes made with me or around me.
Right.
And it's really the thing that's done, that I've noticed. It has literally snuffed out like generational bullshit, like racism and these weird gender role things, and like all that is just completely shut down. It is not an issue at all. So another benefit.
Yeah. All right. How about vulnerability in regards to your job?
No, thank you.
Okay. I think that if you have a good manager,
yes,
and you're open about the things you need help with, that will only help you succeed.
Yes, I agree, 100%. In the two instances of having a superior in a job, the two instances where someone was genuinely invested in my life, it sounds weird to say, generally interested in seeing me do well, just to see me do well. That's 100%. That is how it, how I feel about it. Being vulnerable with those kind of people is great because they use it in the right way. They don't use it as ammunition, as so many people have in other areas. And it's we were talking about jobs before. It's a lot easier to put up with a terrible job when you have people around you supporting you like that. So it's a bit of a tightrope walk. I got really great experience and had really great early career opportunities because I was given a chance, which is just something that doesn't happen now. Used to be a thing, kids. Anyway, what about you in work?
My manager, this is going to surprise people, I think. So I'm an enterprise salesperson for a giant company. I am 9 levels below the CEO, 11 levels, 10 levels, something like that in management. But I sell to, I have basically, I lead an account team that sells to giant companies. My manager is an incredibly experienced salesperson. Her manager is an incredibly experienced salesperson. What do you think the dynamic's like? It's like friends. That's how sales is when you actually want to help each other succeed.
Yeah.
My manager knows I have anxiety issues. She knows I have ADHD issues. She knows I have stomach issues. She knows what things I think are my weaknesses in regards to my job. And we have agreed on what things I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you trust that person, and I do, why is any of that wrong? None of it. Agreed. You know what she does with that information? When I flip out in response to something, she gives me 10 minutes and then comes back to me. That's what she does. Because I've told her it takes me 30 seconds to calm down.
Yeah, so, you're dealing with another mature person. That's the sign of a mature adult.
Yeah. But not everybody has those at work, so your mileage may vary. Please do not open up to someone who's going to crush you. Don't do that. Okay, so I want to talk about, I don't think we need to talk about friendship because I think this is all about relationships.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about Warhammer.
Yes.
Because this was a big thing for me.
Okay.
There's a lot here to unpack. So I wanted to spend the last kind of 10 minutes on it. First of all, you need awareness to get better at everything, not just at Warhammer, but at everything. So let's say you play, and this is for the people that play 40K. Let's say you play Tau. And you play Tau, and those of you that play Warhammer know that there's a very specific kind of style that Tau armies tend to be. What if that style is wrong for you? What if it's just wrong? How will you ever know if your friends can't help you figure that out? There is so much of that. The things you're making mistakes on, the outlook things you're doing wrong, the list building you're doing wrong. And when I say wrong, what I mean is you're not doing the thing that's getting you towards your own goals.
Right.
I don't mean winning is the only way to win. I don't mean like hobby is a thing. Like what I'm saying is you're not going to get better at a painter or a gamer at any sort of pace if you're not willing to be open with the people who can help you. Just not at all.
That's how you play to your strengths. If you don't recognize them, that's how you do it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't just need to know what you're bad at. You need to know what you're good at. I've been on a number of podcasts where people have said things along the lines of, well, we can't all be as good at Warhammer as Colin. That makes me uncomfortable because I don't know why I'm good. At that time, I didn't know why I'm good at Warhammer. And so I went to my friends. Why am I good at Warhammer? Could you take some time and come back to me on this? And they did. And I figured out why I was good at Warhammer. Pretty easy. My friends all knew. Tyler Bortel from TNG had maybe the most insightful answer, and he's like 13 years old. I think he's 23, 22 years old, but like by comparison, he is a child compared to me.
Sure.
And you know what he did? What he did is he analytically watched me because he wanted to beat me. Right? He didn't admit to that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that was part of it. And his feedback was your micromanagement of the fundamentals of the game could be stronger. Okay. And then he said, but you see a path to winning more directly and faster than anybody else, and you never make the same mistake twice. I accept all of that feedback.
Sounds like
fine.
A good combination, yeah.
Yeah, and he's not wrong. And the micro level of the game is not what my brain wants to focus on, right? Exactly how people are positioned. That's not what my brain wants to do. So I have to make it do that. Mm-hmm. But wonderful feedback. So with your practice partner in particular, try to be open. Hey, I'm really struggling with blah, blah, blah.
Let's not just before you move on.
There you go.
Don't let's not gloss over the fact that you reached out to someone. They gave you feedback, probably based on research they'd done on you as a player in order to beat you, gave you the good feedback that you actually needed instead of, or whatever, and made you a better person because of it. And
yes,
you're still friends.
You
talk regularly. Nothing bad is going to come from that kind of stuff.
We haven't talked about?
What's that?
They could be wrong.
Sure.
Just because the person giving you feedback is telling you about a thing that you're not aware of doesn't mean they're right.
That's true. That's true.
So trust but verify is a really good way to think about that.
Right.
Listen to them, be accepting. So one of the mistakes people make, and I make this all the time. Chris has seen me do this a million times in our friendship. People give me feedback on something, and I immediately get defensive. And that, by the way, that's an abused kid thing, but we'll talk about that another day.
Yep.
And you can, if you know me well, you'll see me back off the defensiveness. You'll see me realize what I'm doing and pull it down. Oh, you're right. That is a thing that I do. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I used to do it.
So when people are upset, this is a customer service thing as well. When someone calls a software company because they're mad, they do not want me to solve their problem in the first 30 seconds we're talking.
Right.
They want to complain for 7 minutes and then have me fix their problem.
Sometimes. So
human beings want to be heard. And if your friends are going to the effort of providing you feedback, my suggestion is calmly and quietly listen.
Yes.
And take in everything that they're saying and then think about it. And if you need to, ask other people, your wife, your mom, your brother, your cousin, whoever knows you really well, say, hey, such and such said this about me, and I don't think it's right, but I don't really know. Can we talk about it? And many people think I sound crazy right now because this is so far from how men are with each other. Oh, you probably know deep down what you're good and not good at. It just isn't easy to admit. Maybe for you, but that's actually a thing I can be rough about in things that in a thing where I am overall good at the thing. It is hard for me to see the places where I need improvement. That's not easy for me. I have to work really hard at that in work, in parenting, in my relationship with Stephanie, in 40K, whatever. It's very hard for me to be like, okay, I'm really good at this, but this thing I'm not good at is very hard for me to hear. So I work really hard at trying to hear it, but it's very difficult for me. So not everybody is like that. Your mileage may vary. So I think we've done a good job.
Yeah. Through the woods a little bit, but yeah.
Well, yeah. And I think we meandered a little bit at the beginning. But hey, guys, we're figuring this out as we go here.
It's all good.
This is all new for us as well. And you know what I'm wondering? With the names of the shows might be too much giving people medicine. I wonder if we need to, like, we've got a survey, which Chris is going to put it in the YouTube box underneath us.
Yep.
We have a survey for you guys to help decide what we talk about, but don't be surprised if one of those topics ends up with a really playful name and approach. Because I think that some of you are all in, but others of you need to be convinced to be all in so we can all be on this journey together.
Fair.
Some of you don't know that you need to be listening. So we need to reach people.
Yeah.
Oh, KR Quinn's going to go back and watch the previous ones. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, KR Quinn. Love it. Okay, everybody.
Yeah, we'll try and keep it light as well. I've got just momentarily.
We have 3 minutes left.
I've set up my shrine to nerdery.
Oh yeah, you should do that.
Each shelf has something on it that's thought provoking or story provoking for me, so we can always go back to one of those, and none of them will be. I'll check. None will be gross or heavy. It'll be nice light stuff. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's I am similar. The shelves behind me are a collection of things that mean something to me. None of that. There's nothing over there that doesn't mean anything to me. There's a picture of me with my kids on my wedding day. It's the best picture of me in existence. There's trophies over there that I particularly care about. There's things from when I used to run different websites. There's a Darth Vader collection. Yeah, same thing. Just all the things that are important to me are kind of represented back there so that I'll look at them, right?
Yeah, see them. It's nice.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think we've reached the end of our journey for today. I want to thank all of you for going with us on this journey. I think that what we're trying to accomplish here is something that people don't do, that men don't do in particular. And it matters a lot to me. And being open and vulnerable about what I'm struggling with and how I'm trying to get better is very helpful for me. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that, because it's very helpful to me. And I know that Chris feels the same way. He's nodding aggressively.
Yes, absolutely the same. Yeah, this is I was a little leery going into it, but it's just right in line with all the stuff that I'm trying to do with my life, being better. So awesome. Thank you. And yeah, I'm happy to do this.
If you're wondering what it's like to be Colin's friend, sometimes you get a message that says, here's a show I've designed. You want to co-host it with me?
It starts on Wednesday.
Yeah. I think you got a message. I think I messaged you about that at like 1:00 in the morning your time.
Yeah, something like that, probably.
Like, here's the thing that we're going to do.
Yeah,
okay. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. I just want to quickly say Best in Faction is on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. this week. Best in Faction TNG is at 11 o'clock on Saturday, maybe 10 o'clock. I could be quite slightly wrong on that, but it's on the YouTube. Both of those are going to be real bangers this week because they're both going to talk about LVO. The TNG guys were there and had very good performances to talk about. But what BiffPod's going to do, OG show, we're going to talk a little bit about LVO, but we're mostly going to talk about the 20-30 games of ARC we played. So we're going to have brand new content to share with you guys. Finally, This Week in 40K is next Tuesday at 7 a.m. Finally, this show will be back next Wednesday at 5 o'clock. That's our schedule for the next week. We recorded a ton of content that Chris is about to have to put all together for Bat Reps about from Ark of Omens. I cannot wait for you guys to see the craziness that Chuck was playing. So good.
I've heard about it.
All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, and we'll be back next week. Remember, be gentle to yourself. Bye, everybody.
Definitely.